Hey guys, welcome. Thank you all for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about email and automation. My name is John Maggio with Hawk Marketing Services. Guys, email is still number one. I need you to give your customers what they want. When polled, over 90% of people wanted to receive an email from a company that they had a relationship with at least once a month. In fact, shockingly, 15% wouldn't mind daily emails if the content was the right content. For example, a lot of us are in Anne Arundel County and we're familiar with the Adams Ribs restaurant chain. They have 300 or 400 people on a daily email list that opens the email because they deliver their lunch specials that way. This is really important. I heard a phrase that I wanted to bring up: letting the tail wag the dog. You know, you go through hundreds and hundreds of transactions and one person says one thing and now you're ready to change everything you're doing. You know, don't let the tail wag the dog when it comes to email marketing. Many people tell me that they don't open up their emails. They don't look at emails. They don't prefer sending emails because they don't want to spam people. Well, the data proves that email is number one. So put your personal feelings aside and follow the numbers here. Right now, there's almost 4 billion people using email every day compared to Facebook's 2 billion people. So if you really want to know what the most popular platform on the planet is, it's email. It's email. They expect more people, in fact, to use email and that number to continue to grow, but they don't forecast the same numbers for Facebook. Because as you know, Facebook's got a lot of competition when it comes to that type of platform. But email is still considered the number one way to get in touch with people. 80% of retailers in B2C business report that email marketing yields their highest return on investment. All the cool kids are using email, guys. Future generations, they don't want to talk on the phone. They'd rather chat, text, or email. But it's going to be very difficult to get a millennial, a zillennial, etc., to answer a phone call and have that conversation before you text them or message them or email them. Automation, automation, automation. Leveraging email automation allows you to work while you sleep. Over 50% of corporations are using some form of email automation. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about the parts of an email. And then I want to give you guys a few pro tips as we walk through. The first part of the email, the most important part of the email, is the email even going to get opened, is the subject line. The subject line needs to be catchy. It needs to be enticing. And in some cases, if it's really good information, it just needs to be in plain speak. But the subject line is very, very important to getting somebody to even open the email and view the content. Over half of the people that were tallied, half the people that were asked in this particular survey found that using one emoji in the subject line to stand out in the inbox increased the open rate by a few percentage points. So an emoji is a good way to maybe stand out. When I use MailChimp, they suggest using an emoji. And then when I put too many emojis in there, they say, hold on, buddy. One emoji is recommended, not 2 or 3. So using an emoji or a little caricature, that might help you stand out. In MailChimp and other constant contact platforms, you can also add the person's first name to the subject line, which clearly increases engagement. The next part of the email is the body. some people have different thoughts and views on this, but my opinion is that the purpose of the email and the body of the email is to get people to go to your website. So we typically have a photograph, a short body, and a very big, colorful call to action. People look at their email much like they used to do with their mail. They, good, bad, I'll save this for later, etc. We want them to get out of that sorting mode, click on our call to action, and capture their attention on our website. Even a few seconds is a lot more powerful than getting sorted through your inbox. Just like social media, it's very distracting, and we want to get people out of that distraction and into your sales funnel. Pro tip, here's a buzzkill. Subject lines that have the word donate have a 50% less open rate than otherwise not. So, if you are at a nonprofit, you need to come up with catchier ways to get people to open that email. What kind of email should you be sending? How long should they be? Well, we only want to really send, a partial article or a partial idea, again, because we want to get them out of their inbox and into your sales funnel. The type of content that we're talking about specifically is educational content. If you are planning on sending your, weekly retail circular or your new products or your new services, those are the type of emails that get deleted first. But if you know your customer and you know things are coming down the line, you can provide them with great information, things that they want to know about. For example, Pablo has a very good feeling based on history that taxes are about to go up significantly. And he is going to be able to discuss that. And that's going to be the type of information that a lot of us are going to be more interested in versus generic financial advisor lingo and blogs, etc. It's very important to be on the educational side and stay away from the sales side when you're sending emails. I particularly don't encourage any of my clients to offer discounts, coupons, or any of that, because you end up being one of many. So many people are trying to fill that space, and the consumers are onto it. That's why they're getting deleted more often. Very important. After your short little blurb where we're trying to get them out of the inbox and into your sales funnel, aka your website, we want a very big call to action. Say the image that I'm using is like this big. My button's going to be like this big. It's going to be a big, colorful call to action where I could maybe create a button, and you can create buttons on all kinds of programs. It just needs to be a square with some words in it. And then I have very decisive, click here to learn more, click here now, take action now. There's a lot of examples of different calls to action. A quick Google search will give you a very long list of effective calls for action. But make sure that it's big, prominent, and right underneath that short blurb. Here's a little pro tip. Many of us get transactional emails. A transactional email is like an order confirmation, a receipt for services, an invoice. Lee, I just got a payment reminder from our accountability group that I need to pay for this month, and I'm very happy to be in that group. It's awesome. But that transactional email gets opened 8 times higher than the average email. So if you have a message to say, attach it to the transactional email, not transition, the transactional email. That order confirmation, that reservation confirmation, that invoice, that thank you for your payment, because those are the type of emails that get an 8x open rate versus regular emails. Another pro tip, and this is easy to do with a lot of the email programs, MailChimp, Constant Contact, all of them. You can add the person's first name to the beginning of the email. You can even add the person's first name to the beginning of the subject line. And those personalized emails get open a few points more than if not. So all these little things add up, right? There's no magic bullet. There's no silver bullet here. All these little tips add up to higher open rates. And speaking of open rates, what kind of statistics are we really supposed to be expecting when we're sending out an email? It varies from industry to industry, but the typical open rate of an email is 15 to 20%. 15 to 20%. Now, that's the typical. The 15, unfortunately, guys, usually leans down towards like the financial advisor emails, the mortgage emails. The 20 is usually with the industry emails, contractor emails, restaurant emails. But if they're your customers and you're building your list and you're watching out very carefully about who's opening and who's not opening, you can create a situation where you're getting an open rate of over 40%. Lee, our friend Steve Sodaro from Kinetic Physical Therapy, we send out an email. Kat writes the blog. We send out an email to all of his past patients, and he's getting a 40 to 43% open rate. Because it's about physical therapy. These people don't want to go back into the problems that they had. So that's on the high end, 40%. On the low end, 15%, 20%. If you're sending a bunch of emails and your open rate keeps going lower, you might be creating too much fatigue. You might want to back off. So instead of sending one once a week, you might want to send one once every other week or once a month. A lot of people, once a month is quite normal. But if you really think about it, Toys R Us, all those companies, that you subscribe to or make a purchase, they're sending 2-3 emails a week on the retail. I just made a purchase from a retail store. I've already gotten 4 emails from them, and I haven't even gotten my package yet. So when you're thinking, am I sending too many emails? Don't be like them, right? Don't send me 4 emails before I even get my package. But keep an eye on your open rate. And that'll be a good indication as to, are people really wanting to see this or not? And if you review your list of contacts, because you can actually see who's opening it and who's not. And continuing to clean and trim your list and taking out the people that are not even opening the email will increase your engagement and increase your open rate. So again, some people just aren't going to open it. Speaking of opening the email, the next thing we obviously want them to do is to click on the call to action and go read the article. The national average click-through rating is 1 to 3%. 1 to 3%. So for every 100 people you have on the email, 3, 5, 10 people will go and read that article. A lot of people have different opinions on who should go on your email list. Obviously, all your past clients should go on your email list. But to tell you the truth, if somebody gives me a business card or I see their email address somewhere out, I'm putting it on my mailing list, right? And my open rate proves that that's okay to do that. I've added 2,200 emails to my mailing list, and I still have a solid 20 to 22% open rate, especially pre-pandemic. And, that kind of just proves to me that even people that didn't opt in are still interested in the type of information that I'm giving them. Anybody could opt out. And in fact, to decrease the number of times people mark me as spam, I put the unsubscribe button at the very top. I want it to be really easy for people to get off the list. Because as you know, when people mark it as spam, these email marketing providers do not like that. The reason why is because somebody like MailChimp has an agreement with Gmail and Yahoo and AOL that they're going to vet their customers so that they're not sending these big wholesale email clients spam email. Gmail, Google, for example, would never agree to a free-for-all where their Gmail customers are going to start receiving mass emails from MailChimp clients that are spammy. So you do have to watch who's marking as spam. And again, pro tip, put the unsubscribe button at the very top. If they don't want to read it, we don't want them on the list. It's fine. Add everybody you can. Email is one thing in marketing that you own. You own your contact list. You can take that contact list and take it to a whole nother job and career if you want to, but that's your list. You don't own your Facebook profile. You don't own your Twitter. Those things can be taken away from you at the snap of a finger, but not that email list. So when you're spending money for marketing, you want to make sure you're getting something back physical. Are you getting an article? Are you getting a business plan? Are you getting somebody for your email list? Something that you can have an asset to move forward with. We strongly believe in that at Hawk Marketing, that if you're spending money on marketing, you need to walk away with some asset, a physical asset, because you don't own YouTube and you don't own Facebook, but you own your content and you own your email list. Those are the most valuable assets you can have as a business owner when you go to market. Let's talk about automation real quick. Most platforms are encouraging automation at this point. MailChimp, very inexpensive, free for up to 2,000 subscribers. If you want to upgrade, they start at $9, $19, and so on. A lot of people use Constant Contact. Most of the time that I run into somebody, it's either one or the other, MailChimp or Constant Contact. Every once in a while, there's a MyEmma or maybe a custom CRM that sends emails out. But for the most part, what I hear back was feedback. It's either MailChimp or Constant Contact. I prefer MailChimp. I think it's easier to use, and I think it's a little more user-friendly. Anybody could log in and kind of figure out what's going on here. Constant Contact is just very good, just a little bit more complex in my opinion. And in the past, I've had experience that Constant Contact is a little bit more strict with the emails that you add to your list. MailChimp's a little less strict. So what does automation look like? Well, here's an example. You want to kill two birds with one stone? Set up an automation with your MailChimp account to where when you add somebody to the list, it sends them out an invitation for a coffee one-on-one. Right? That's an example of automation. It's you're getting more done with less effort. Automation emails can be triggered by many things. They can be triggered by actions. They can be triggered by dates. They can be triggered by a series of events. Again, many of you want to use that for the one-on-ones. For examples, for a lot of my clients, we send out a email as soon as services are provided. For example, if electrician, as soon as the services are provided, we send out an email to make sure that everything is doing great. And, and if it's not doing great, click here and talk to the owner. And if it is doing great, click here and leave a 5-star Google review. So again, asking for reviews is another example. A thank you email is another example of an automation. It can get much more complicated. Imagine a yoga instructor. She signs somebody up on her email list, but she has in advance set up 10 emails that show a new post to that person every single week and entices them to come for a class. She did a lot of work up front, but it has saved her thousands of hours on the back end. Instead of sending individual emails, she's automating them. Not all of us are in B2C. Some of us are in B2B sales. So what I've done with the help of Kat Harvey is create a series of introduction requests for my contractor clients. So I have one that's I have a request for one-on-one. The next one is, can I send you some business? The next one says something about, it says quick question, so that the subject line would say Lee, comma, quick question, right? I'm hoping Lee looks that up real quick and just looks at it. Even if I get it open, that's great. But I've set up 4 or 5 of these little automations, and all I have to do is put Lee's name in once, and he's going to get an email once a week for 5 weeks until he sets up a calendar event with me. Just another way to leverage email automation. Again, we want to work while we're sleeping. Does anybody need help with any of this? Email marketing, automation, ideas on how to increase your open rate? I'm right here to help. John Maggio with Hawk Marketing Services.
John, I understand eye contact is creating some of these triggers automatically as well.
Yes.
Have you looked into the way some of these systems are doing, and is it user friendly? Is it something an owner can handle, or not? Can you tell me your experience with them?
Eye contact is another big platform. I used it in our New Balance days for a couple of years. And right now, again, I'm in MailChimp a lot, and they are offering education and offering step-by-step guides to create what they call if this, then that actions. Like if somebody does something, then we do something. And you can set up all kinds of these little triggers or automations. And they're kind of giving us not only video tutorials, but like step-by-step, and a lot of them are created on like a wizard, where they walk you through it, and you can kind of pick what you want based on what industry you're in. And they're suggesting, obviously, what works the best. So I think that dive in, look around, click on things. And if you need help, just give me a ring. But I definitely think that it's something that most business owners can do. The question is, do they have time? And the most important thing about an email campaign is consistency. If you pick once a month, stick to once a month. If you pick twice a month, stick to twice a month. But again, I think it's not that you can't do it. I think that it's more of a time issue. I call it the eBay model. eBay creates a system where they want everybody to be able to do it. They make it simple so that everybody can take a shot at it. And I think that a lot of these email marketing platforms know that not just big businesses are going to be using them, but a single and small businesses are also going to use them. Thank you, Angie.
John, the question for probably a lot of us is balance. We hear about emails, we hear about blogs, we hear about newsletters, posting ads. How do you find the balance in all this? I know you probably prefer emails, but what are your thoughts on balance?
Well, what we do here, Gary, at Hawk Marketing is first we write the article, because that takes care of the blog check mark. Then we take the first paragraph of the article and we post that on Facebook on our business page. And then we know that nobody's going to be clicking on this thing unless we pay. So we put $50 behind that article for a 15-day boost, a 2-week boost, $50. And Facebook is undercutting Google, so you'll probably get about 50 people to read that article if you boost it that way. The second thing we do is we take that same format, take that picture from the blog, put it on the email, take a paragraph from the blog, put it on the email, and we send that out. So my answer is the way that we find balance is we create a system that has a flow like a manufacturing chain, and it all starts with that good content that you create. And I've seen a lot of your emails coming through, Gary. I think the content that's being provided to you is very good. It's lighting options. It's home ideas, right? Has nothing to do with moving, which is excellent, because the last thing I want to see from a real estate agent is is the new listings, right? Or that you're having an open house, because I'm getting murdered on that stuff in my inbox. I got to unsubscribe. But Gary, you're sending over really good information. You know, what colors are good this year? What are the latest and greatest on the kitchen fixtures? You know, is brass coming back? I hope not. Right. So
Yeah.
good kudos to you, Gary, on that.
Thank you.
Pablo, you were on mic. Did you have any comments?
Uh, yeah, I think, thank you for awesome, timely material. I think um, you're right. You got to start with relevant content.
Yeah.
And what's worked for me over the years is yes, send an automation email at least once a month, and you get it. It's a little video,
Yeah, it's good.
and most of it, it's most times it has nothing to do with investments. My number one email that today still gets the highest number of returns, not only opening, not only reading, but actually an email back to me with a comment is what to do if you lose your wallet. That has absolutely nothing to do with investments or retirement planning. It's just, it's a very popular email. And every once in a while, I'll schedule it to go out at least, once or twice a year, depending on how the contact list is growing. But you brought up a couple of really interesting points that we sometimes don't look at it that way, but it's the intellectual property, right? Keeping your email contacts and having your content, that cannot be taken away. That's yours, and you should guard it. You should treat it like gold, because that's what generates business.
Tagging on to what you just said, just because you wrote an article once doesn't mean you email it once and it's gone. You know, Pablo's using the same article from 3 years ago and emailing it twice a year and still getting replies. Many of the platforms, including MailChimp, etc., they'll ask you if you want to resend it to the people who did not open it a couple days after the original send. And remember, if only 20% of people are opening it, that means 80% didn't see it. So you still need to send that article out again. You don't have to have new all the time. The point, I think, is like what Pablo's doing. He's sending out test messages, finding out which ones work, and then making sure to include them into the next year's and next month's marketing campaign. He's not just throwing them away and getting 12 new ideas. He's keeping the 3 and getting 8 or 9 new ideas. You know, always look for the winners and keep the winners on top. Awesome stuff, Pablo. Well, guys, we've got a few minutes left. Anybody have any comments before we wrap up? Go ahead, James.
I just want to, actually, I have a question for you too, but I also want to say too that one of the things I tell my customers, and this is following up your first part about email being so critical still is I run a lot of businesses and they give no thought to their email signatures. And I'm like, but every day that every single message, sometimes, you have a decent sized company sending hundreds, if not thousands of messages a day. And there's a whole opportunity you're missing. One, to present a professional image, and convenience. If I want to call somebody back, I want to go to the signature and be able to find the number for them or contact information. But the other piece of what I try to tell them is one, have it consistent across all your employees.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts when you see somebody's smartphone. Well, excuse the typos or some, gimmicky, slogan there instead of their professional signature.
Yeah.
Because that's just another touch point for the customer. But the other piece, I actually have an add-on that actually does the signature to make it consistent and also have a campaign piece to it. So you can add, so make every single email a promotion piece, basically.
Absolutely.
And I tell my nonprofits, if it's an event, they can be promoting their event. If it's a business, you can be promoting, maybe whatever, sale or whatever's going on for the month or whatever. So just things that I think people need to think about because they're missing a whole opportunity there to follow on to how critical and important email is. But the question I have for you is, and this is the part I always hesitate, like you talk about just people you come in contact with, you automatically add them to your mailing list.
Yeah.
I always kind of hesitate when I see any more that, like, that most of MailChimp and all them say, that person's giving me permission. to mail them. So I always kind of hesitate there, and I'm like, have they really? So I mean, I guess how do you? I guess your thoughts on that, or am I just being overly too cautious?
I don't think. I mean, nobody. You're never too cautious. It does say, "Did this person get your permission to do this?" You know, and all I'm saying is, on the behalf of the person, give them permission. I mean, I know that I'm going to send out good stuff, James. Right?
Cool.
Like I know that I'm not going to send out crap to these people, and I bet you're going to send out some good stuff too. You know, something that I might even want to see, something that you might even want to protect me from, and I can always unsubscribe.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to be. I've never one time gotten an email and said, "MRFer, that SOB, I can't believe he did that. I'm never talking to him again." That's never happened. You know, I tend to. We network. We're all networking. People are adding us to the list all the time, so we're always getting like new emails, and I just unsubscribe from the ones that I don't want. You know, and then on the other end, James, sometimes, and I'm not saying anybody in this room, sometimes I stay subscribed just because we're friends at networking. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want them to see that I unsubscribed, and I don't want, you know, I want to advocate. I want to be on their list. I want to make sure that, you know, we're all on the same team, for example. But I get what you're saying. You know, you're breaking a rule, technically. But I really think that that's a safeguard to protect the consumer. And if you feel like you're going to be sending good stuff, then give yourself the permission to go ahead and add them. But the biggest thing that they don't want to see is they don't want to see you adding hundreds of people at a time. Consistency is a huge key here. If you add, like every Sunday, I would add everybody to my list before I send out the email and add 20 or 30 people a week, right? My spam rates never got crazy. My unsubscribe rates never got crazy. My clicks and opens stayed steady. No red flags, because I was slowly adding people and not doing this huge copy paste. You know, maybe I, for example, bought a list. You know, they don't want you to buy a list and then import it into MailChimp. That's not, you're going to get flagged and shut down almost immediately, you know. Another thing, James, on to your point about, you know, James is in IT. When you're sending emails, you got to be careful about how many links you're sending. I've sent out many emails before and have gotten your blocked messages. Specifically, a lot of people have been using the Calendly, calend.ly. I use a URL shortener called bit.ly/John Maggio. That's how you get a calendar with me. Yeah, email providers are blocking URL shorteners. That's what that's called, the little .ly and little shortened email URLs. Are blocking those because a lot of times behind that email is a spam link. Email providers are going to block. And if I send James 10 websites that I just created, more often than not, that's going to be blocked because the email provider is not going to want to see an email from me with 10 outbound links, because that could be a link to a virus or a link to a bad website. It could be spammy, you know, so the fewer the links, the better. And often if you embed the link, maybe say like schedule a call, and then that word schedule a call actually links to your calendar, that sometimes gets through. So be careful about what you're sending, because a lot of times, I mean, there are filters out there to prevent spam and prevent hacking. The number one way that malware is spread is through email. Never open an email from somebody you don't know or trust, and never, ever, ever open up an attachment unless you were asked for that attachment. You know, unless you ask for that attachment, do not open that attachment and do not click on that link, because a lot of us, you know, some people actually get hacked and they don't even know that they're sending out these messages. That's part of the gig. So you guys know the drill. The number one way to get your website or your computer hacked is to open a bad email. James, I want to share something real quick with everybody. I put the link right in the chat. I saw, you know me, I don't mind asking for directions. I saw somebody had an email, and you are sharing. Can you see my Gmail inbox? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jenna, I was talking to her about, I had a one-on-one with her and I liked her footer. So I just emailed her back. I said, hey, what are you using for your footer? And she recommended mysignature.io. And I put that chat down there. And obviously they have a lot of cool little templates. But Pablo, I thought you'd like that schedule a call button. That's where we could put our calendar link in there. And she said that there's a hack. This is VIP, Networking Annapolis only. If you build this in Google Chrome, the hyperlinks will underline. The way that she got it to format with no hyperlinks underlined is she opened up Firefox and built her signature in the Firefox browser. And that's how she got away from having any underlined hyperlinks, because Google Chrome will automatically underline them. But again, mysignature.io, you're right, James. There's no reason not to have some sort of professional contact information. It drives me crazy because if I don't have your phone number, the first thing I'm going to do is go back to that email, right? And if it's not there, it's like now I have to go online and now I'm really looking for it, and maybe I got to call somebody for it. So good points all around. Edit the raw HTML, Nick says. That's what's up. I like that, Nick. Guys, thank you all so much for coming out today. Really appreciate the content and the info and the feedback. Let's all have a great week. It's 1:02.